Tonight on Expose, Ralph the Robot. For thousands of Elk Grove children, he symbolizes TV fun. But where has Ralph been for the last 14 years? Where does he go when the show ends? And why won't he wipe that stupid grin off his face? We'll find the answers to that and more next, tonight on Expose.
There's a place in space. There's a guy who's great. He's Ralph the Robot. He's Ralph the Robot. He's Ralph the Robot. The Ralph the Robot Show.
Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of the Ralph the Robot Show. Hey, that's me.
In the 1980s and early 1990s, Ralph the Robot was the king of TV fun in Elk Grove Village. Children and adults alike followed his many adventures along with his co-host, Madeline Courier, and assorted guests. Life was good.
Ralph was fun. He was like a person to me, and he always had good answers. And the children loved him, just loved him. And he'd pull some funny tricks. By that I mean one time we were talking, and he got too close to the edge of the stage, and he started to fall. And I said, "Oh, Ralph, be careful, be careful." "Oh, thank you, Miss Courier," and we got him back. And, you know, you just got into that mode that he was a person to you. Did you know the former hierarchy, Jack Clays and Jean Vormitag? Okay. Jean came to me one day and she said, "Madeline, you were in speech and drama at DePaul, right?" "Right." "Okay, you're doing Ralph." I said, "Yes, ma'am."
Well, I was very lucky to become involved with Ralph the Robot. I was friends with Madeline Courier, and I have another friend, Mark, who has cerebral palsy, who's in a wheelchair. And Madeline thought it would be great for Mark and I to come and to meet Ralph and to talk to the boys and girls about what it's like to have a disability, and for them to see Mark and that even though he's in a wheelchair, he's still just a regular kid. And Mark and Ralph really hit it off. They became good friends, and through that, then Mrs. Courier and Ralph started inviting me back on a regular basis. I read books, as did Mrs. Courier, and I did crafts with children. We had different kids come on to meeting Ralph and doing fun things. Ralph came several times to the library, the old library, and now the new library, and we talked about, books and crafts. And one time at the library, one of Ralph's admirers, Timmy Cromick, came up and shook Ralph's hand and managed to rip his entire arm off. So Ralph had to go back to his home planet and get that fixed up. And then he came back better than ever. Well, I really love Ralph. Ralphie is a great friend, and we just had so much fun together. We used to kid around.
But Ralph's personal life was also on an upward trend.
Ralph and I met at a convention. It was a mechanical engineers convention at the Holiday Inn on 53. And oh my goodness, he was just the sweetest thing. He took me around, introduced me to all of his friends, all of his colleagues, and just made me feel so special. Oh, I just loved him. And then he took me out to dinner at their coffee shop, and he ordered me their steak, which was really kind of tough, but the thought that counts, I've always been attracted to short guys, and he just, he's just so cute. And his personality, he's just always so bubbly and friendly. He just loves everybody, but I don't know, sometimes he can be a little moody. But that's all right. You know, you can't have the up without the down. So he's just a special guy. He introduced me to all of his mechanic friends. We would always go into a garage to help him, you know, watch him fix cars. And he took me to a lot of conventions, the mechanical engineering conventions, because he was always a featured speaker at those. He took me out to eat a lot, but it was at not real expensive restaurants. But that's all right. I could always find something good on the menu, like a salad. You know, nice chef salad, always good. We would go for car rides, although I'd have to drive because he really couldn't reach the pedals too often. But it was fun. We always had real good times together. I just felt so wonderful when he would take me out and show me off on his armature, well, whatever you want to call it. He was just always so wonderful out in public. He'd walk me down the red carpet and spin me around a few times to show me off. I just felt so famous myself, and I know I was kind of clinging on to him, but hey, the ride was worth it. It's just so wonderful. Oh, Ralph, he was the best at gift giving. He had this awesome guy who composed symphonies on his synthesizer, and he would send me tapes all the time. And you know, he tried to do a little singing in the background, but it's all right. It wasn't too bad. He gave me all sorts of jewelry made out of all these really cool wires and electrical components. I have never seen stuff quite as unique before in my life. He also used to take me, we used to go for drives all over the country, mostly to garages, like I said. His friends were lots of mechanics, but we always had so much fun in the car. We were just driving all over the country.
Yes, it was quite a ride that Ralph the Robot was on. Fame, girls, and 10W40. It seemed as if the good times would never end. Then, the end came quickly, like a female lion pouncing on a wounded gazelle, unaware of the tragedy about to befall it. The fall of Ralph the Robot began in the early 1990s. As popular as the show was, evil forces powered by jealousy, greed, and a desire to show canned travelogues doomed the show to the dustbin of the history of Channel 6. Cast members were shocked and surprised when the news was delivered.
I think I didn't have a lot of feeling other than it's a shame. It's one of the few children's shows that we have. They're always learning something. They're at the library or doing a craft or learning something educational or mixing in with other children. And I really felt bad. I really, really felt bad. It was a good experience for children, and then we had children on the show, and I thought that brought the community into it, and some of them were just darling. You know, they liked the idea of being on a show.
You know, I think it was sad for everyone, but it was a little bittersweet because Ralph knew that he could go on and explore other options. Well, it was kind of sad for me. I gotta be honest. And I disagreed with that decision. And Ralph never said much, well, except at his going away party. He was so nice, and he thanked everybody and promised he'd keep in touch, and you know, and he always still emailed me. So it was nice.
But the cancellation of the show also exacted a personal toll.
It was very tough to watch him. He kind of went into a real quick downward spiral. He got real depressed, and he was always sitting at home, drinking a lot. He would buy oil by the case, and it wasn't the good stuff, it was the synthetic stuff. I mean, it was just, you know, he moped around a lot, and I got to really enjoy the attention, and he didn't want to go out in public anymore, and I just really started to not want to be around him. He was always yelling at me, go get this, go get that, I want to be famous again. Ugh, very difficult to deal with.
So what happened, your relationship?
Well, it got to a point where I just couldn't handle the drinking anymore. I mean, he was going through a case or two of oil a night. And he got very, very loud and abusive mentally. He never touched me. But I just couldn't handle it anymore. And it was time for us to be over. So I had to tell him that as much of a sweet guy as he was, I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I packed up my stuff and I moved out.
How did he handle the news?
He did not take it very well. From what I understand from our mutual friends, his spiral just went down, and I mean, he started buying oil by the gross, not just the case anymore. And I understand he put on about 30 or 40 pounds after I left, which was kind of funny because he was always taking me to restaurants. But he did not handle it very well, and he used to call me all the time, 5-6 times in an hour. Please come back to me, come back to me. I just couldn't handle it. He was just too depressed for me.
I could not go into the Jewel and get out of the Jewel without several people stopping me, asking me where Ralph was and why wasn't he on the show. And one little girl that works there, she always come up and she has this deep voice, well, when's Ralph coming back? I said, I hope soon. I hope soon. So yes, it was a constant, really. The parents were real pleased with it. You know, they recognized some of the children and they liked the idea. They knew the show was always good. It was always clean, it was always educational, and it was always entertaining. So, you know, it went over great.
Did you hear from Ralph at all while he was missing in action?
Well, we sort of had a little mental telepathy going there. As long as his motor was good, I could kind of clue into what he was thinking. And he was thinking, I'm lonesome. I haven't seen any children. I haven't been over to Channel 6. He felt bad. He felt like he was almost deserted.
Immediately following the cancellation of the show, it is unclear what Ralph did for a while, but he would occasionally contact his friends from sometimes bizarre and strange places.
I know for a while he was traveling the world. For a while there he was sending me postcards from all over. He sent me a postcard for, oh gosh, I think from Russia, I think from South Africa, Brazil, Springfield, Illinois. So he really had a good time traveling around. And then he alluded to something that he was going to do, and he really couldn't go into detail. And so then Ralph and I kind of lost contact, which was sad.
He sent me a postcard from Florida, I think it was. He was on the beach, I think it was Miami. Yeah, because it was a picture of him in a thong. Oh, my goodness. Kind of a scary sight. But it said, I wish you were here. And it sort of trailed off at the end with a few teardrops on it. But really, that was all the contact I ever got from him, and I didn't really know where he was. I had a bunch of friends say that he was in hiding, he just didn't want to show his face, but at that point I was too depressed myself to care too much.
Do you miss Ralph?
Oh, all the time. He was the sweetest thing. He always treated me so good until he lost the show and then he started yelling, but he was just the best guy to be around.
You know, sometimes he'd see a funny joke on the internet and he'd email it to me and say, I was thinking of you, and it was always a really bad joke. He was known for those bad puns.
But was Ralph the Robot really traveling the world, sending back pictures taken by some unknown, unseen photographer? Or had he returned to his own planet, consumed by failure over the cancellation of his show? Was he just standing in front of a green screen, with pictures being electronically inserted behind him? Or was he just stuck in a basement somewhere, gathering dust like the proverbial old discarded toy that no one wanted? And what about that stupid smile? Just when it seemed that no one cared anymore about Ralph, hope sprang eternal in the form of a very, very sick little girl.
I wish Ralph was back on TV. He's my hero. Please bring him back on TV.
Suddenly, Ralph realized that he had to make a comeback. wallowing in self-pity and spending all of his time trying to get his floozy back, had to take a back seat to reviving his career. Ralph cleaned himself up and returned to Channel 6 in hopes to once again bring back TV fun to Elk Grove Village.
We have a special surprise for you. Somebody's coming back all the way from outer space just to say hello to you. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Ralph.
Ralph! Ralph, how are you?
How you doing, Mrs. Currier? How you been?
Oh, it's so good to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you, Mrs. Currier. How are you?
Oh,
Yeah, all right.
oh, you look wonderful.
Thank you, Mrs. Currier. Hey, it's great to be back every time you have. Hey, how's everybody doing out there tonight, huh?
Hey!
Yeah, hey, it's great to be back here at Channel 6 with all my TV friends. How's everybody doing?
I felt like my heart jumped right out of my skin. He looked so beautiful, and so much like himself, and happy and ready to go. And I could just see him relating to the children looking at him, and he looked so beautiful. He was just polished. He was back to his old self. So it was wonderful.
Oh, it was so great seeing him come through that door with his handsome face smiling. We just ran up and gave each other a big hug. It was wonderful. I was so happy to see him. Ooh! I thought, yippee! And when I heard he was back in Elk Grove, well, I called him right up. He came over, we had some barbecue. It was great. Barbecue sauce was running down our chins. It was good barbecue. Oh, it was really good. And coleslaw. Ralphie loves that slaw.
So now Ralph is back, and he's got his show again. How do you feel about that?
I am so excited for him. And unfortunately, I'm already with another guy, but I would take Ralph back in just a second if he wasn't going to yell at me like he used to. And he needs to stay away from the oil too, but that's, that's another story. I just think it's wonderful. He seems so much more upbeat when I encounter him on the street now, and he's just such a wonderful guy to be around again.
Now that Ralph had cleaned himself up and returned to Earth, he needed a new co-host to help with the fun. Since Mrs. Currier had retired, Ralph searched high and low before finding the perfect partner, Channel 6 diva Debbi Dennison.
Well, one day I was walking into the studio, like I normally do, typical day at Channel 6, and there he was. He was just standing there. I've never met this little robot before. I've heard about him, seen him on TV many times, and he was just standing there going, hello, which was appropriate for once, that he actually said hello at the right time. But I was so excited because here is this famous person in my studio. It was amazing. So gave him a big hug. It was like I've always known him.
How do you feel about being compared to Mrs. Currier a lot?
Well, that strikes a little nerve with me. Like I said, I've told Ralph time and time again, I like Mrs. Currier a lot. I think he thinks that I don't like her. I like her a lot. She's a great lady. But, the show is new and fresh, and I'm the new host. So Ralph's just going to have to learn how to deal with me, and that I've only done a few shows, and, before you know it, I'll be making ants on a log. I truly think Ralph was in this crazy basement where he just had everything he ever wanted in this basement. All the oil, all the ants on a log. There was a bowling alley, I heard. And life was just good in this basement, and he didn't need to go anywhere else.
Do you believe anything about the radical anti-human movement that he was part of?
No. Ralph likes to put on an act a lot of times, and he likes to go back to some of his old days when he was tough, in the basement, of course. But Ralph is really he's just a little kid at heart. He's just a softie. He's not this big, bad, tough guy that wants to take over the humans. No, it's all an act.
And where do you see the show in, 5 years from now? 10 years?
5 years, I'll be 5 years older. Ralph will be 5 years older. We'll have so many adventures under our belt. And in 10 years, I'll be 10 years older. And Ralph will be 10 years older. And we'll have even more adventures under our belt.
Do you think it'll ever be called the Debbi Show?
Maybe.
And now, for the first time anywhere, Ralph the Robot comes forward to tell his story from his own perspective, his side, his heart-wrenching, eye-filling, bone-crunching story. Yeah! Sorry.
How does it feel to be back on TV? Well, it's great. You know, I really missed it, and I was really messed up for a long time. I'm not really proud of some of the things I've done, but I got to do it for the kids, especially that sick kid Brittany. She kept writing and writing. I think she even got a camera crew to come visit her in the hospital. Wow. I just have to do it for the kids, you know? That's what it's all about. Well, as far as the things that I've done after the show went off the air the first time there, there's some rumors around that I was in a basement for over a decade, and I gotta clear that up. That is untrue. I mean, a basement? Come on, that would be pathetic. No, but I spent my time. I would like to say that that time was spent on sabbatical. I always wanted to have one of those sabbaticals, but honestly, I wasn't too right. I had some problems. I really did. I got in with some bad people.
What kind of problems?
Well, Moosey and I, we used to go out to barbecues all over the place, and I kind of fell in with these other robots, the robot crowd. They called themselves the FOC, and in the mid-'90s, they were planning this uprising. It's kind of like a radical political group, and Moosey wouldn't come along with me, and I got kind of sick of hearing them call me Ralphie. Ralphie? My name is Ralph. Anyway, what happened there was, I kind of fell in with those guys, and they were just trouble. They were nothing but trouble, and that just, I started drinking and hanging out with loose women, and it just, hello. It wasn't the kind of thing you would want from a children's television host, you know? Lily. Lily is she troubles me. She really does. I gotta say, I was close to falling in love with her. I really was. I really was, but she wouldn't shut up. She would just talk and talk and talk, and it kind of drove me to drink a little bit. I have to admit, I was weak there. I had to drink to kind of silence the voice in her head. Well, it was in my head, really, but her voice really just kind of goes right through you, you know? You know what I mean? You met her, right?
Yeah, sure. All right.
Anyway, I think she's a special gal, and I hope we can still be friends, and I don't want to say anything for legal reasons, but she may be stalking me now. I don't know. I really don't know. But everyone knows, for the record, the love of my life is Amy Jacobson. Oh, Debbie? Well, she's all right. She's no Mrs. Courier, I'll tell you that right now. But, Mrs. Courier is one of a kind. When they made her, they definitely broke the mold, you know? She's a sweetheart. So, but Debbie's got potential. She's not too kid-friendly, but, I think I can help her. I think the future will be me doing these shows, and as long as my diodes are functioning in one direction, I will be doing these shows. I have to do it. I have to do it for the kids, especially the sick ones like Brittany.
With his future firmly in hand, Ralph the Robot looks forward to a future rich in girls, money, fame, barbecue, and slaw. Ralph the Robot is not just an icon of TV fun, but a symbol, a beacon of light in an America desperately in need of a true hero. With liberty, and justice for all.
Well, how about that, huh? What do you think?
Ralph, I can't show this.
What? Well, why not? Come on.
Because it's completely made up.
But Chief, that's good TV. It's not made up. It's true. It's slightly embellished, I'll grant it, but
And what do you mean I'm not kid-friendly? I ooze kid-friendliness.
Hello.
I'm right up there with Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny. And don't you remember all those kids swarming around me at the library? They weren't swarming around you, Ralph.
Talk about embellishment. Come on, I mean really, Debbie. Devil in the White City on a kid's show you were reading?
At least I can read, Ralph.
And let's be honest, have you ever really made ants on a log?
Well, once, a long time ago, but...
You're no Mrs. Courier.
Ralph.
What?
You can't call women floozies.
Well, hello!
Yeah.
And how did you get a floozy, girlfriend anyway?
Well, you know, I have my ways. I'm charming.
What about the moose?
What about Moosey?
You interviewed a puppet.
He's a non-human entity.
He's a puppet!
And what do you mean I'm just okay?
I mean, you're just okay.
No, I mean, no offense against Mrs. Courier. She's a very sweet lady, and I love her.
I viewed her as an equal, though.
But, Ralph, I can be just as good as Mrs. Courier, if not even better.
Sure.
You haven't even given me a chance. I have credentials.
Debbie,
What?
the show's called Ralph the Robot. It's very clear who the star of this show is, really. I mean, come on.
You're
I'm just saying.
a robot.
Just a robot.
That's all.
Do I have to put up with this, Chief? Come on, really.
Chief,
I can't work
come
like
on.
this.
Please.
All right, Mr. Starr, what about this whole drinking oil thing? You lying on the couch with oil dripping down your
Well, it's
chin.
a message.
That's
It's a good
That's
message.
a horrible message to send the kids
There's
of
a
the
moral.
community.
What?
And who was the guy with the porcupine?
Porcupine?
And where did you get all this
Hey.
money to go on all these trips?
I have my
And who
ways.
took those
I'm resourceful.
pictures?
Yeah.
They were taken. What?
And Ross,
What?
Brittany isn't sick.
Well, hey.
She's a very good friend of ours, and we know she isn't sick.
She's
That little
not.
girl's up to a pack a day, and if that's not sick, I don't
Ralph.
know what is. What?
Ralph,
What?
get out of my office.
But Chief, we can edit.
Get
We can,
out of
it's
my
good stuff.
office.
We can use it. But
Out!
Ralph, I think it's best if we go.
fine. Come on, Debbie. Let's go get some slaw or something.
And Ralph,
Hello.
if you would just wipe that stupid grin off your face, the chief probably wouldn't be so mad.
But maybe if you drew me a new one, I'm getting kind of tired of this one. I could use a new one.
Ralph, get going.
All right. Fine.
Watch out for the
Ow.
sheriff.
Hello.
Why do you say hello all the time?
Well,
We're
you say
leaving.
goodbye, I say hello. Hello.
Ralph, I
What?
still don't get it. We're leaving. You say goodbye.
There's still a lot you don't know about me, Debbie.
There's a lot I don't want to know about you, Ralph.
place.
Come on, let's go bowling.
Bye.
In space,
Say hello.
there's a guy who's great. He's Ralph the robot. He's Ralph the robot. He's Ralph the robot. The Ralph the Robot Show.